I'm Judd Myers.
I'm Scott Tipton.
Welcome to Blast Off. Our guest today has been breaking ground in the music industry since he was a teenager. He had his first hit song at the age of 15, and just a year later, before he could vote or get a legal drink, he became one of the original members of Suicidal Tendencies, playing bass in a band that came to define the 1980s West Coast punk rock sound. That's right, folks. Joining us today is none other than Stephen Bruner, also known as Thundercat. During the middle of the last decade, Bruner linked up with Shafiq Hussein of Sarah and became a permanent fixture at the group's Silver Lake studio that briefly served as the Los Alamos of the LA underground music scene. Everyone from Ty Dolla $ign, Erykah Badu, and Bilal passed through the sprawling nerve center. He joined Badu in her live band and New America studio sessions. And then in 2011, Bruner joined forces with Flying Lotus, and his musical passion exploded. That year, he released his first solo project, The Golden Age of Apocalypse, which positioned him as an artist who could flit between improvised jazz, left-field electronica, and smooth soul within the space of a single song. It was followed by Apocalypse in 2013, and then his more somber 16-minute-long EP, The Beyond, Where the Giants Roam, which was rooted in his grief over the sudden death of his close friend, the piano prodigy Austin Peralta. In 2015, he collaborated with Kendrick Lamar and took home a Grammy Award for the groundbreaking album To Pimp a Butterfly. Right now, he's on an international tour, playing songs from his new solo album, Drunk, which features a single called Show You the Way, a song that brings together Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins for the first time in decades. Proof that there's endless reasons why Bruner can compose and play with everyone from Stanley Clarke to Snoop Dogg. Stephen was kind enough to join us on the podcast between performances on the main stage at the Coachella Festival. We're grateful that he took some time away from his beloved cat, Turbotron Over 9000 Baby Jesus Sally, to talk music, art, life, and of course, comics. Welcome, everybody, to the Blast Off Podcast. This is another conversation show we're having, and we're outside of the studio this week, and we're back in the mothership in our headquarters in the store in North Hollywood, California. This week, we are very, very honored to have Thundercat on the show.
Hey. Hey.
He's kind enough to have taken some time out between his shows at Coachella to come here and talk about the things that are really important.
Oh, yeah.
These four-color wonders that we all enjoy so much.
Oh, yeah. Imagination and mystery and wonder. You know?
Stuff you bring to your music, too.
I try to. Absolutely. Yeah.
I like to start every show by asking what I think is the most important question that we ask ourselves, and that is, what was the first comic book you ever remember reading that stuck with you so much that you couldn't get it out of your head?
Being honest, this is going to be really trippy. The Age of Apocalypse. Yeah. When I was a kid, The Age of Apocalypse, it was seeing Magneto's struggle, you know, for between good and bad, like it's always been, but it was really intense. You know, it was after Onslaught.
Yeah.
All the different things changed. That changed my life. I remember I used to sit and draw pictures of it. You know, I used to draw pictures of it and sell the pictures at lunchtime in middle school. And like, I just kept drawing Magneto. I was like, hey, I got to draw Magneto. Magneto's the guy, you know?
Did you think you were going to be an artist, or did you just were drawing just for kicks?
I wanted to be. I did. I'm not even going to lie. Like, I play bass and sing and everything, but I also illustrate, you know, and it was like a thing it was a thing for me growing up where I kind of had an argument with my dad because it was like, I wanted to go to Fairfax, you know, because I always heard that there was a lot of artists that came out of there, you know?
Yeah.
And my dad was like, nah, man, you got to do the music. And I was just like, oh, man. I was like, but I mean, I can do both. And he's like, you got to focus on the music. And it kind of changed the course of everything, which was absolutely fine because I still draw. But, you know, every now and again, I wonder what would have happened if I went to school for it or something like that. But it's, yeah, man. But it was definitely the Age of Apocalypse as a child, you know.
Where did you get it? Do you remember where?
I bought it. I bought it. I used to,
like a comic book store?
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to work at a comic store when I was in middle school.
Wait a minute. Wait, really?
Yeah.
How I've known you for a while now.
Yeah.
You never mentioned that.
I know it's part of my, just a very important part of my, my past as a child. And it was funny because they couldn't legally hire me, because I was underage. So what they would do was like, especially during the summer, I would work every day, and it was one of those things where it was like they pay me $20 in cash and $20 in store credit. Yeah. And so
I know all about that, man.
I would go turbo. I was like, let me get all the cards. Let me, and I used to bag the comics. So I would get them before, and, I get to see them before they were going out. So sometimes I would sit back there for a couple minutes and they'd see if everything slowed down. They'd be like, hey, what are you doing? But I'd be back there reading the comics as they would come in. So, kind of eye some comics that I wanted or something, I'd be like, keep that in mind because when that $20 comes around, I'm going to pick a couple of those guys up. But, yeah, for sure. It was definitely the age of apocalypse that, and that was, there's other comics that, of course there's the moments that were, stand out. But like the one for me was that one because it was like, I remember I got in trouble for that comic a lot. I would carry it around. I would literally, as it grew, the stack would get bigger. Yeah. And, I would have everything from my teachers take it from me. My parents have to come pick up the comics and like, not have my Wizard magazine with me. Like, stop bringing the stuff to school. My parents didn't know what to tell me because it was like, they knew that it was something that was cultivating something in my mind, but they were like, stop taking it out at the wrong time. Like they didn't want to tell me to not bring it with me because they would see me drawn and they would see that, I would kind of put the 2 and 2 together. So they'd allow it, but they were like, stop getting in trouble,
So they were okay with you reading comics.
Yeah.
And even ones because I know they had a religious background, but like apocalypse.
Yeah. Yeah. The funny thing, the one of the coolest things for me growing up too was that my dad was a DC guy. He was a Detective Comics guy. And so we would argue.
Oh, you do the DC versus Marvel thing.
Yeah, we would argue. We would argue every now and again too, because he would try to sell me on it when I was a kid. Because a lot for me it was like a lot about the trading cards growing up. You know? It's a different era, and we would look at the cards and then we read all the stuff, read the comics, find the comics, and my dad would slowly try to move me over into that DC thing, and I was just like, I wasn't having it. I was just like, nah, man, I can't do it. But I could do Batman. I always could do Batman. I understood Batman's struggle, but some of it was just always like, nah, it just feels like they're trying to keep up with Marvel, and but yeah, for all in all, it was the age of apocalypse for me. It was like, I was like seeing like, it was like the thing where they're trying to, the never ending story of Marvel, they're trying to eradicate all mutants. Magneto's trying to protect the mutants, it's like he's trying to find a way to get man and mutants to like, but then he's watched his friend Charles disappear and it's right. It's like he's having this hard time and he has to lead the X-Men now. And it's like, it's pretty intense, It was like, I was really like, whoa.
It's funny because being a comic guy and knowing you, I look at albums that you title and you put apocalypse in the title. Yeah. Other people are thinking, the usual thing, the war and the war. And I'm like, comics. Yeah. He's referencing the comic.
Yeah, man. I think that's the beauty of it, though. I think that there's this thing I always wind up talking about with my girl, where art imitates life. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's like these denotations that happen regardless if people see them or not, that are like this, consistency, this current that you can see even in the writing, even in the drawing, even in the and then as much as the music and like the mindset behind stuff. So I think that it's still very much in the same pathway or the same mindset that, the albums were made in, it's like this feeling of, and, it stuck. It stuck, man, it stuck.
Yeah, I mean, comics are like morality tales. So it's all the the hero's journey, the good versus evil.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of listening to your music.
Oh man,
I've already listened to your music, but I did a deep dive.
Oh man,
and it's really interesting that a lot of it is journey music. It's like I think a lot of it is probably what you were going through at the time in your life, which is pretty standard for an artist.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of hero's journey happening in there.
Oh yeah.
And of course, you bringing everybody's like, oh gosh, he's so crazy. I'm like, no, he's a comic book character. It's pretty easy to see. He's living his dream.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
So here's a question I have for you, because I was thinking about this. So when I'm 14, 15, 16, I know what's going on with my life. I'm trying to hide my comic book habit because I want to get in, under the girls' sweaters, and I want to make sure that they think I'm really cool. And if they knew what I was really doing, what my room really looked like, there would, comics hanging from the ceiling and stapled onto the walls and stuff.
Yeah.
But there you are, 15, 16, and you're like defining punk rock in West Coast Los Angeles with suicidal tendencies. So did you have the same struggle in any way?
Oh man, I was always the friend. I was always the guy that was like a little too off kilter, to make out with, or, it was definitely that for me growing up. It was a lot of that, and it was like, even into her early high school, it was just like, I was just like, I may as well have been like this alien. Like, I'm serious, man. Like, girls didn't know what to do until it didn't really click. I had a girlfriend after my 9th grade year that was so far away from me that it was just the most intense like level of having a girlfriend I could have at the time. Like I lived off the 10 freeway, and she lived in Long Beach. And I don't even.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this was like 16, 17, I guess. And I had to travel on a train to see her. And my parents they had to be okay with that at first. I was like, I'm be traveling on the train at like, after the sun goes down and stuff. But they would let me go every now and again. And but like even besides that part, it was like the reason why I wound up with a girlfriend at some point, because it was like I just had no ability to like to interact with women. It was like, oh, you can draw, so they would always ask me to draw their name, or draw a picture of them and their boyfriend or something, and it was just like, oh, okay. It was like, I guess, you sure you don't want to, I'm not, am I getting, can we like each other?
The great and mighty Thundercat fell into the friend zone, ladies and gentlemen.
Man, good Lord. The story of my life, man. Good God. Yeah, that's a real thing, man.
Obviously, jeez, man, you've been all over the world, but coming up, working on your music, a lot of time is spent in a studio. A lot of time is spent on a bus, on a plane. Mm-hmm. I've interviewed actors, directors. It's a lot of waiting.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time waiting.
A lot of hurry up and wait. Man.
Yeah. So everybody has their thing that they do while they're waiting.
Yeah.
Do you read comics?
Yeah, man.
Do you, do you put on your headphones and just like dig in? Are you the guy in the corner reading comic books?
Yes, I am. And the last experience I had with that was the Max Punisher. Yeah. Yeah, I bought.
Wonder where you got that.
Yeah, thanks to the good old boys at Blast Off, But like literally, like I would have a backpack, with my sketch pad and the books, It's my way of coping with reality. It's like literally, like after I get through security, I'm just like, after you've just been stripped completely naked. After you've been given.
You're like, get out of my bag, man! Don't touch my Punisher comic.
Exactly. It's like you can't see that through the X-ray. You don't need to go through it, But they always do. They always go through my bag. It's just, I don't know. I just look interesting, I guess. And once I get through that security gate, man, it's like, me and the Punisher out in Vietnam. A man on a mission. It's like, you get into that stuff, And but yeah, I've always been that guy. Yeah.
For me, I was, the guy who had his comics thrown into the street and stuff. And I was that guy.
Yeah.
And somehow along the way from then till now, I've become the cool guy.
Yeah.
Somehow I became that guy. And now, those guys are calling me up looking for a job.
Yeah.
And so what I wonder is, are you on the road with all these musicians and everything? Are you the cool guy? Are you now, do they go, hey, what are you reading, man? Oh, that's cool.
Man, I literally, nobody else on the road.
All right, here we go. Reveal.
None of my friends are really into the comics like that, man. And every now and again, I'll have a conversation with somebody like that's working with me that was into it at some point, you know, and we'll talk about it because they're like, you know, because I'll go to the comic store wherever the hell I'm at. Like, I straight up will. It'll be like, I'll just leave where I'm supposed to be. And they're like, what? Oh, you're supposed to be sound checking right now. And it's like, oh, I just went and found Forbidden Zone or something. I was like, you know, like I found him. I'm in London. I walked a couple, you know, caught a cab like this is like 20 minutes away. I found a comic store, you know, it's like, you know, but literally like none of my friends are like that about it, you know, but, every now and again, I like talk to them about it, you know, about the different stories, you know, like the ones that are cool. And every now and again, somebody will ask me something to check out, you know, and I'll have something for them, you know, thanks to you guys, you know, and, it's just, it's just me out there for the most part, you know.
So there's no like famous artist that is secretly a comic fan?
I mean, well, you know, there's those levels of like, you know, fandom where you got the guys that'll do it because it's cool and it's a new thing to where it's like, let's see, what's the way to describe it? Like, like when you go to, I always have this conversation every now and again too about, cause somebody will ask me because they know I'm like a bit of a book, you know, bookworm. They'll be like, you know, you're going to go see the new Ghost in the Shell, or like, you're going to go see the new, you know, and they'll be like, I kind of give them those eyes, like, don't, you know, like this isn't the relating point, you know, but then I'll explain the thing to them where it's like, you know, it's a bit deeper than, you know, that moment of the pop moment when everybody's looking at this, like this is the new thing, you know, and I'll wind up going into the backstory a little bit about some stuff like the new Thor movie, you know, and you see, you know, the Hulk and Planet Hulk. I'm like, okay, I see what this is, you know, and, but yeah, like I tend to have a lot of moments with these people that are like this. It's like a very patronizing conversation. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, you know, hey, you're into the X-Men, right? And it's like, yeah. And it's like, yeah. And they weren't into them, but they're like, because everything that's happened now, they're like, yeah, I really like Wolverine. It's like, of course you do. Right. You know, it's like, that's the movie that just came out, you know. Every now and again, I'll have that conversation where I have to watch myself because I'll know the comic book a bit. And so it's like the movie will happen. Like, well, what's supposed to happen? I'm like, you know, it's like you have to give them like this disclaimer. Like, it's not everything advertised is not as large as it seems, you know.
Plus, if you really explain it a couple of hours in, a good glaze over there, you know, because you could just keep going.
Yeah, their face just gets melted off, and you're just like, I'm sorry, you know. And every now and again, somebody actually. The funny thing is watching when my friends know that moment happens for me when somebody just accidentally or like they just ask a question that's like. And then I just light them up and they're like, oh, you asked them the wrong question, man. You know, it's like, but that does exist like that on tour for me. You know, it's like, the people that I play with on tour, they're not too much into it, but, you know, they see the influence and they every now and again, they try to see how I connect the dots, you know, where it goes into the fashion, where it goes into the lyrics, where it goes into the music, you know, and, it translates that way with them, you know.
And video games too. I mean, you've got music videos that are video games. I mean, that's what they are.
Yeah.
But they must see that. They must understand. And I have to imagine that you have people that you work with that might be afraid to put that out there. You know, you're right up front with it, man.
Yeah. It's the funny thing is, I think everybody's gotten a little bit more used to it. You know, like after the Tron video, a Tron song. You know, it was like the one with Eric Andre. It's like there was a bit of a reality put to it, you know, where it was like this crazy, insane world of just like, you know, what's really going on at home by yourself. You know, it's like comic books. Like you're seeing you look in the background, there's like stacks of comic books. And I'm just sitting there. There's like Iron Man toys everywhere. And I'm just like, yeah, you know, swords, taking showers with my clothes on. It's like, it's that thing, you know, when you're left to your own for a bit. And it's like, you know, that's the truth is it has to be that for me. You know, it's like I couldn't do anything else. One thing I learned about the music was that you have to be honest in it, you know, and that was a very stark lesson I learned from Flying Lotus, you know, how important it is for it to be honestly you as compared to this facade or this character you want people to see you as, you know, and that's the only way I could go about it. So it was like, that's where it had to start, you know.
It helps being really good at your job. Being really, really good at the music.
Well, thank you. I work on it,
and people don't bother you as much
Oh,
with
man.
all of your idiosyncrasies when you're winning Grammy awards.
Yeah. If I walk up on the red carpet with the Return of the Jedi lightsaber.
yeah, that's fantastic, man.
That happened. And it was so funny because you know how adamant or how stickler they are about, the best dress or the worst dress.
Yeah.
And I think it was like People magazine or something. It was like, look at this idiot. And then everybody else was like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's a return of the, that's a return of the, I'd never forget seeing it. And I was just like, oh man. I was like, there they are. They're the guys. There's like, those are the guys I should be hanging out with because they just attacked the magazine. Like, no.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael McDonald. Wake up and dream. Tell on the wall of all you believe that might not be true. Long as love lies within them. Just hold your face into the light.
You understand what you represent to nerd culture.
Oh man.
You understand that. It really is like, okay, this guy is, he's playing music with some of the greatest musicians in the world, in history. And you're winning awards. You're just trying stuff and just figuring it out. This new single you did with Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins, like what? Taking everybody by surprise just because it's good music. And you thought, I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah.
And you're a nerd.
Yeah.
You're a guy who is right out there with all of that. And not only do you get the girl,
hey, man.
but you make a great living. You have, respect. You have art. You carry yourself with confidence. I know we all have our things behind closed doors that we go through. But to nerd culture, we're always, you have cosplay where they go, finally, I'm able to be who I want to be. And there are all of these people around me that they're okay with it too.
Yeah.
It's a celebration. It's sort of a victory.
Yeah.
That we're able to kind of come out. And your sort of success story, it's kind of rare. There are some actors and, people who talk about the things that they love with comics and video games and stuff, but they don't wear it on their sleeve. They don't get up in the morning and get dressed and go out in it.
Yeah, you gotta let people know, man. To be honest with you, honestly, how it feels, it's like you gotta let people know that it's there. It's the moments, like, to be honest with you, where you're reading Spider-Man, and even the origins and stuff like that, and the moment where you can see, like, that tear as a character, and it's like those moments would inspire me. Like the moment with the moments with Spider-Man's grandfather and like stuff like that. Those things are real. Like that, like you were saying, there's the morality to it. There's the whole bit to it. And I feel like there was always somebody with me there, like regardless if it was in the book, it was like, I know that there was somebody that had that mindset that understands that it is about being the good guy, Right. I feel like I got a glimpse into that early because of the comics, it's just what it is, and my parents ate it up with me because my parents are very creative too. My mom wasn't into comics, and my dad, as he got older, watching us, he wouldn't, he'd always buy Batman stuff, every now and again he'd buy his, Batman t-shirt, new toy coming out, he, try to get it and hide it and all that. I would have the toys in my backpack. My dad, before I would go to school, my dad had to open my backpack and be like, leave this here, leave this here. It was the thing of like, it was also very encouraged in the house,
So your brothers were also cool about it, or did they torture you?
Oh, my older brother was a dick. Totally was a dick, man. But he learned over the years what it was for me. I think I actually had a funny moment with my older brother, who's like this amazing musician, and he literally, like, after all these years, he said to me, he's like, "Oh man, I didn't realize the video games and stuff was actually what was fueling the music." And he's like, "If I would have known, I would have left you alone a bit," because he was very serious about music when we were kids.
Right.
And, if I walked away from the TV, he would cut the video game off and put a music thing in. Or if I was reading a comic or something like that and I came back, he'd have a drink sitting on it or something.
Oh, man.
And it would just be like, wow, Ronald, really? But we wouldn't mess with my art book. He wouldn't mess with art book because that would start a fight. But, every now and again I would have those moments with him. But as we've gotten older, he literally admitted it. He was like, I didn't realize there was something for you. And I was like, I knew you were being a dick. I was like, I was just waiting for you to come around. But yeah, man,
you were lucky enough to have a father who was cool with it. I mean, it probably helped that you were pursuing music in a very real way and working hard at that.
Yeah, man.
And dads tend to be like, as long as you're working hard, as long as you're doing well, okay, these other things are acceptable.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. I mean, my dad was like, my dad didn't think it was, he'd give me my allowance, give me my $5 and I would ride my Huffy to the comic book store and I'd spend it all.
Yeah.
And get home
immediately.
Spread them all out on my bed and, love them. And he came into my room one day and he said, how much money are you spending on these comic books? I said, all of it. He said, I think I'd like you to spend your money on other things. And I said, well, I don't want anything else.
Right.
He said, well, go out with your friends and do. I don't have any friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said, if you keep spending all your allowance on these comic books, I'm not going to give you any more allowance.
Oh, what is that about, man?
And I was my father's son, so I was like, don't give me any more allowance.
Yeah. He's like, it's cool. Nothing's changing.
That was the end of my allowance. There was no more allowance.
That was it.
So I rode my Huffy to the comic store every Saturday, and I would read my way through the comic racks.
Oh my goodness!
And I would read every single comic, and then I'd get on my bike and go home.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was here in California too. And then one day the manager was like, "Hey, kid, you never buy anything. You read all my comic books." And I was like, "No, I don't have any money."
Yeah.
So he said, "You know how to bag and board?"
Yeah,
I said, "Of course I do."
Yeah.
Took me in the back room. He put me on a milk crate. He said, "Now bag and board till I tell you to stop."
Yeah.
And I went all day till my hands were like it's all creased and cracked.
Yeah.
And then he closed the gate and he said, "Now pick out comics till I tell you to stop."
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I did. And then he said, "See you next week."
Yeah.
And I came every Saturday and I did the bags and boards and I got my. And
wow,
my dad came into my room one day because I had all my comics out.
Yeah,
he was like, "Where did you get all?"
He
those?
thought you stole them.
Like, I got a job. And oh, you got a job? He thought I stole them. So he called the comic book store and he said, "My son has all of your comic books. And he says he has a job with you." And this rock star manager said, "Best employee I ever had."
Oh man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You can't make up for that stuff.
Yeah, and years later, because that comic book store, like, I don't know, 20, 23, 24 years later, I bought that comic shop.
Wow.
I bought my childhood comic shop.
Yeah.
And the day that we had an opening, it was really successful. There were a lot of people. It was a lot of money, and my dad was there.
Wow.
And he waited till everybody was gone. I closed the gate, and he said, "I was wrong.
Wow.
I'm sorry."
Wow.
And he took the ego out of it. And I said, "Dad, if it didn't happen that way, I wouldn't be standing here right now. I wouldn't know what it was to work for something that I really wanted.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what it was." So maybe the lesson came in a way that we didn't, maybe wouldn't have chosen to do it that way. But it was a lesson nonetheless.
Yeah.
And I was able to have that conversation with him before he passed away. It's kind of a wonderful thing because I've spoken to a lot of people, and many people say it was a struggle. Yeah. I had to hide things. I had to, it wasn't until I grew up a little bit that I was able to really buy what I wanted. And then I was in college and there was girls and there were things, I sort of let it go. Yeah. And I came back to it later.
Oh yeah. It's in your DNA at that point though. It's like, it's interweaved and you find the ways for it. You find it, and it becomes more personal at that point too, I think, Do
you still have the comics from when you were a kid? Do you still have your original Age of Apocalypse? You do?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, it's literally like I still have all my trading cards. You know, every time I come in and I see the new toy, I'm like, I try to, because I'm like, I'm gonna flip out. I'm like, don't do it right now, Steven. You know, the house is gonna be just full of like these statues. And, you know, I'm like, oh man. But no, I absolutely do, man. And it's like it's one of those things that, and it's funny because every now and again I'll try to explain to like my daughter or to my girlfriend, like in the photos, like I'll be like, okay, well, this comic, you know, and you know, your girl just looks at you like, sure. And you're like, you don't understand. It's like, you know, but, you know, the girl, she does understand, you know. So, you know, every now and again I show her something cool, you know, give her part of the story with the comic books, you know. And, my daughter, you know, like the funny thing is like sometimes you wish you could pass it on in a certain manner, you know, and it doesn't always, you know, like you're saying, it doesn't always work out the way you want it to, like that. But nonetheless, I still look at it and I see the excitement and I see like I can see farther, you know, and I feel like it's partially because I have these as a reference, you know, it's just so important. And you know, like my little brother, I get my little brother into it every now and again. You know, he's always, my brother, you know, he dresses like me and, you know, he has this, you know, it's like it's pretty cool, you know. And,
does he emulate you? Does he?
A bit, you know, he does, you know.
Because he does I mean, it's a different kind of music.
Yeah. Yeah. He's his own person still to, you know, to a major degree. But it's like, if there was anybody that I talk to about it, it's my little brother, you know, and it's like I always bring him into that world every now and again, you know. You know, he'll ask me references, like a Stark reference every now and again, you know, and be like, well, I'm looking for something that's like, you know, oh yeah, you want to check, you know, something like this out maybe, you know, or just go raid my room, you know. And, you know, it's just, I can't wait to pass this knowledge on, you know, whenever I get the chance, you know, like the books, the dressing, like the way it's, you know, it can affect you, and like, there's moments where I'm like, you know, I've never met the guys like Stan Lee, you know, and all that stuff. But the funny thing is, like, regardless of every idiosyncrasy that would create them being or where they're at, it's like, it would be nice to one time get a chance to say something to Todd McFarlane, or, you know, say, you know, like, hey man, thank you, you know, thank you for changing my life.
Well, he may be listening to this podcast.
Oh
so.
Man. Well, if you're out there, Todd, and, you know, thank you. Thank you for what, you know, your work, you know, it's inspired me throughout the years, man.
I've met your daughter. She's a very shy girl.
Yeah.
So does she not have a real interest yet? Or is she just sort of like, she like, Dad's crazy?
Well, you know, the cool thing is she has her things, you know, she has a couple of things, you know, that I don't know. I remember last time she came in here, you know, the Harley Quinn was her thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, where they latch on. You can't, you know. Yeah. And there's no arguing, you know, it's like, it's a little girl.
Right.
You know, I can't just like persuade, like, you know, hey, you know, maybe, you know, let's go look over here into the Miss Marvel or some, you know, she's like, no, I really like Harley Quinn. And it's like, you know what? If that's where we're at, let's get you some Harley Quinn comics, you know? And I'll talk to you about DC, and I'd give her the whole Joker, you know, like what I know about it, you know, just a little bit. But the funny thing is, like, I'm like, oh man, those are some pretty intense comics. I'm like, yeah, it could be that. I'm like, uh-oh. Like, scantily clad woman running around. I'm like, ooh, you know, but it's still, I'm 100% for it, you know. So it's like, you know, she's got the poster in her room, and, you know, she's got the couple of the books laying around, you know. But it's like, you know, I think it's especially having a little girl, it's just different for her, you know. It's different how it translates, you know. But it's there. I know it's there.
Yeah, my daughter she grew up in my stores, but she wasn't really, she sort of danced around it, and she liked comics and stuff, but it wasn't like her main thing. She liked to read books without pictures, which is wonderful.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
But in the last couple of years, because there's so much great content for teenage girls,
they've changed now. They've changed.
She has done this like deep dive into the comic world, and I've been watching it happen and giving her the things that she's been asking for, and then, like a couple of months ago, all of her friends were talking about summer jobs. One's going to work at a yogurt store. One's going to, and she was like, Dad, can I work in the comic shop for the summer?
Yeah, man.
I said, really?
Yeah.
Of course you can work in the shop.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm really excited. I really want to work there. And on the one hand, I am absolutely thrilled. And on the other hand, I'm like, you don't want to necessarily pursue a job in retail.
Yeah.
You'll learn a lot. But I made a very bold choice.
Yeah. It's like I jumped out there.
Yeah. And I've been working hard for you to be able to make other choices if you want to.
Yeah.
But to experience that is like, because when when I found out I was having a girl instead of a boy, it was like, okay.
How you're trying to figure out the angle. You're like, okay, this can be okay, But like you were saying, man, that's what. And again, this is one reason why I really love Marvel is because even with the crazy thing that's happened, crazy things that have happened throughout the years with them, it's like them being owned by Disney and things changing and all that stuff. It's like they're, at first, because it was a little bit of a struggle for me too, because it's like trying to keep up. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on here? They're changing, they're killing all the characters. I'm like, what's going on? They're like actually killing them off. It's like, but it's like the changeover for me was like a bit difficult at first, but then once I realized what was happening. We've talked about it a couple of times. It's like, nah, man, they got to keep the stories going. And so they got to go about it the way they go about it, but they got to keep the stories going. And it's like, once I realized that hump was like a good thing, I just dive straight into it, and it's like, I can't wait. Cause the funny thing is once, cause every now and again, it's like, I've been gone for the last couple months. Like my daughter's gotten taller.
That's tough.
It freaks me out.
Tough.
It does. I saw a picture of her the other day, and it's like she's as tall as her mom and her grandma. And I'm just like, Jesus. I was like, in 2 months, I'm like, what just happened? But it's like one of those things, though. When she comes back, I'm gonna be ready for her. I'm gonna have some stuff for her, and we're gonna party. we're gonna do some serious partying. I still would always talk to her about the change. I talk to her about the changes. I'll watch the things with her, even if she's not totally into it. I just like I let her know this is like, hey, this is something, and, I just, at some point I know she'll find her niche about it,
Yeah.
And, but yeah, man, I got to thank Marvel for that changeover because it's the thing that I know that's going to connect my daughter to it.
Touch on this because Marvel's diversity push, because I've talked to I had a long talk with John Ridley, I had a long talk with Reggie Hudlin, I had a long talk with a lot of African American creators who talk about representation and how there really wasn't a choice when you're growing up. You're like, all right, none of them look like me. And I'm just gonna have to imagine it and accept that. And then Miles Morales changes it for an entire generation of kids.
Wow.
And now we have Marvel coming out with books that are specifically for teenage girls.
Yes.
Hey, let's really try, obviously more women characters.
Yeah.
But, X-23 becoming Wolverine.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really, really fantastic, dude.
Dwayne McDuffie was a really, really good friend of mine. And Dwayne was at the forefront of Milestone Comics and really keeping the rights to his characters and diverse characters. And even on the Justice League animated show. Yeah. Saying, no, I want it to be Jon Stewart as Green Lantern. I don't want it to be Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
And fighting for that.
Yeah.
And to have this story that I told, because he would come into the shop a lot. We would talk, and before he passed away, and there were a lot of action figures for Justice League. So many action figures for the Justice League animated show. Great action figures.
Yeah.
They were, Jon Stewart was Green Lantern, but they had one episode and it was like, okay, they're bringing Hal Jordan in. So they had a variant figure that was a Hal Jordan figure. And I had it in the shop, and it was on, and all these kids came in. It was like a group of black kids, and they're looking at the action figures, and one of them said, "Oh, Green Lantern." The other one went, "It's not Green Lantern. Green Lantern's black." And I was like, "Oh my God, it's a whole new world." He did it. Oh my God, he did it.
Yeah.
But that was like lightning in a bottle,
Yeah.
And I wonder now, looking back, were there characters that you were drawn to because you felt like, all right, maybe they're not like me.
Yeah, yeah.
But they have a struggle where they're an outsider.
Oh, yeah,
and they,
man.
You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There were a couple of characters that I definitely had moments with where I was just like, I had a bit of, what's the word? Empathy for the character, like Beast. Mm-hmm. You know, it was one of those things where it was like this.
That's why you bought the origin issue, the origin of the beast.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
okay.
The guy, like, you know, the whole thing where he's like this uncontrollable changing, like, you know, and everything from, you know, like, I remember as a kid, for me, it was just one of those things where it's like, he's the smartest guy and the most violent guy. You know, it was just like, then there was like, he's the most unforgivingly mutant. Like, you know, it's like there's nothing he can do. You know, and it's like, but he's one of the world's brightest minds.
Yes.
And it's like people recognize it, but it's like they don't know what to do because it's like they're trying to get rid of, you know, and it was like I got a chance to see that as a kid. From that moment to like the funny thing was, imagine that I wasn't really torn by the idea that there wasn't anybody that looked like me. It was like one of those things where it's like I feel like at an early age I realized the way of the world, so to speak, you know. You still find yourself in these things, you know, regardless. Sometimes it's easier for a person to identify with something that's always been a certain way, just like we were talking about that change in Marvel. I could see that there was something bigger in the comics. Still, it didn't affect me like that. You know, it didn't affect me to that degree. There was a specific story I read, like on Nightcrawler. I think it was a story that was put out in, goodness, what was it? Where it was like they were dealing with, in a very interesting way, it was very awkward as hell. You know, where of course Nightcrawler's always been cast out because he looks like this weird demon. You know, it's very weird, very obscured story. But like I remember I read the comic and I imagined when the comic came out that it was something along the lines of trying to help condition or like to try to like open the mind to the idea of change and difference. It was by way of the whole racism struggle. But they tried to equate it to Nightcrawler. Right. And it was like very deep because it was like, I was like, man, that's pretty screwed up. but I was like, you know, honestly, those things had to be dealt with in the ways that they would be. And I'm happy that it happened. But it's like at the same time, when you look on the cover and you see the whole team together, it's like the whole idea is that we're together. Right. That's the thing I picked up more than anything, more than the part where there's no black guys. It's like, so it's like that's okay, that's what it is. I mean, I always make this joke where I was like, for some reason there's like in space you look at Star Wars and it's like, I guess there just aren't any black people in space. And it's like Mace Windu and they just throw him out a window. It's like the one black friend, they just throw him out the window. It's like, geez, but it's funny as hell. But it's like, again, it's like, it's not something that strikes me in a very weird way because I know people are always continuously growing, even if everything looks crazy and stagnant. Again, Marvel has always been a backdrop for that. And they've always been the groundbreaking guys. And so, like, again, like we were seeing with what they've done with the change in their format with, you know, killing off Wolverine and making him X-23, you know, all the different things. There's a ton of different stuff we can go into that. Yeah, I know, you know. Yeah. You got to thank them for doing it, you know, like internally, you know, you just go, yeah, Marvel.
Well, the idea of mutants was always sort of a reaction to civil rights movement.
Yeah.
Idea of the other.
Yeah.
And being persecuted for being the other and for no reason at all. And having characters who just didn't understand it. Young kids who were like, they were teenagers when X-Men started.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
They were persecuted and scared and they only had each other.
Yeah.
And an old guy who was like,
They had a vision.
He had
a vision. He saw something changing.
And then with Giant Size X-Men, the initiative, the diversity initiative then, because it was that. Yeah. We have a Canadian Wolverine. Yeah. We have Thunderbird, who's, you know, a American Indian, but of course they killed him. Yeah. very quickly.
It happens, man.
You know, we have Storm.
Yeah.
We have a Russian.
Yeah.
And Nightcrawler is German. They really did that thing of like, let's change things. Let's get some more diversity. Let's get a little bit, the story's a little bit more hard hitting. Yeah. So they've always done that. Yeah. I mean, since 1962, Marvel has always said, let's be the rebels.
That's why I love them. You know, to be honest with you, it's like I love them for that very reason. And I'll hold fast to that, you know, because of that, you know, like getting it. And when you get a chance to see any part of it, because the funny thing is these kids now have to go back. they have to go back. It's like, it's cool when you see these new ones that are all, a lot of the time, like the Avengers, I just kind of go, okay, all right, I get it. It's it's the new franchise, but it's like, you got to take these kids back a bit, give them these moments like this, like hopefully these kids get a chance to see it that way and get a chance to go back and realize where it was, and it's just at any point, it's just, I always appreciate Marvel because they also always reintroduce the stories. That's the thing that I love them for, because it's like, even if let's say with the movies, they may change it, or, in the cartoon format may change, where they'll have like the new Spider-Man cartoon, or they'll have like the Avengers. You'll see the Avengers on everything. You see Avengers backpacks and all this stuff. They're going to change it up again in a second, and you just got to appreciate them for it. It's like they're going to do something to flip these kids around real quick, and it's like, I look for it. I do. I definitely look for it a lot. Big shout out to Marvel for doing your thing.
And what about novels? Do you do a lot of, you're on tour, on the plane and stuff, you listen to music, maybe you play some video games. Do you read any science fiction fantasy? Are there novels that you have read? Like, okay, what would you say, thinking of novels, what would you say a book is that, without pictures, that was an inspiration for you or stuck with you, or whenever, it doesn't matter what part of your life?
If I had to think of one, that's fair. Because the funny thing is, books without pictures from you are pretty serious. It's like the Bible. It's like there's the Bible.
Oh boy!
And then like the Quran, and then it's like, oh man, that's a difficult one for me because I feel like I've been reading so many comics. It's just like,
well, I threw you a curveball.
Yeah,
there.
You definitely threw me a curveball. I want to say. Well, one that influenced me, like literally, if I look back far enough, it's like, for me, it would be like Goosebumps. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I had some serious moments, in-depth moments with that series. Like, was it the Tower of Terror? And I feel like I've been a hardline comic guy. Like,
yeah.
Because of the illustration and always needing to see the visual, because it's like that.
Yep.
Something different for me with that.
But R.L. Stein was like the Twilight Zone of kids' books.
He was, man. It's funny watching things like, what's that, Stranger Things?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're just like, you get older, you're just like, oh, it's just Goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's
like, true. That's very true.
Like, they're like, oh, it's funny because, and that's always how you know the kids who read it or didn't, because they get excited about Stranger Things. And you're like, you give them this face like, man, it's all part of this bigger picture with this stuff, and it's like, some things can change you in that manner when it comes to these books like this, with the novels and stuff, because the funny thing is, I feel it may be easier for like my daughter or my girl to shoot if they saw it from that perspective, because my daughter reads books like that. She's the Babysitter's Club. She's totally into it.
Oh, that's great.
I bought her these books for Christmas. She actually specifically requested them too, and I was just like, I was like, wow. It's like, okay, that's where it's at sometimes. It may be for me to step over that, because I think the last thing, oh, wait a minute, no. Was it the Thanos where it was like, basically, it was the book without it was Thanos. I picked that up. Good Lord. Other than that, I'm a hardline comic guy, man. Yeah, it's just been straightforward, because I like to sit back after I've read it and then view it as the vision. Even when they put the different boxes together and stuff, it's like I kind of separate the two a bit. I'll read it without looking at the pictures at first, and then I'll take a step back, and then I'll be like, okay, this is happening here. This is, it's a weird way, I guess, maybe, or unless I'm sure everybody does something like that to that degree.
Yeah, everybody attacks it in a different way.
Yeah, for me, I have to read the words first.
I remember when I was reading comics and still learning to read.
Yeah.
And I would, work my way through the thought balloons and the word balloons.
Yeah.
And then one day I realized that those little boxes, the little caption boxes, had stuff in it. That related to the action.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it, and I was so excited because I got to go back and read all of my comic books
with
again.
With this new perspective.
With this, all this new stuff that just open up my world.
Yeah.
But it is, you have to learn how to read comics.
Yeah.
Sequential art is a very specific thing.
Yeah.
And I've had people go, how do I read this?
Yeah.
Well, your eye starts here.
Yeah.
And you follow the action. You go this way.
Yeah.
And then,
man.
And then they bring up some manga, and I go, okay, turn the book over.
Completely sit upside down and just slap yourself. And then, man, I feel like one of the last great comic books I purchased was the Batman Court of Owls. And I read that there's a certain type of reading that happens, I think, with because who's the guy who did that one? That's,
Scott Snyder and
it's
Greg Capullo.
Okay, the way that the reading goes, man, it becomes extremely internal.
Yeah.
It's so intense. It's so intense when you read a comic like that, you can't make up for it, because that's the writing.
Yeah.
You can tell the difference.
Isn't it funny? Because I talk about that Batman run as being the most Marvel Batman book.
Yeah, man, it's the terror, it's the psychological. Like it's like you're in it. It's like, oh man, Batman's having this moment. He's about to break down. Dude. Yeah, the little surprises that book throws you, man. It's like I have my moments with DC where I'm just like, but that one right there, that's a gemstone. It's like, good job. I feel like I prefer it to be in comic form still. My imagination translates somewhere different. That's where we talk about the being on stage and the way it applies to the music and stuff, So it's like it takes on a different life form. It's a constant, the comics. It's always a constant. It's just I'm always looking for that magical comic. I may try to get into novels more in the future. That's the curveball. Yeah, you're like, I see, yeah. One, the humanoids and metabarons and stuff like that. I've got, delved into that a bit, but that's still a comic book.
I may just gift you with something.
Oh, man.
Force you to work a little bit.
I'm down. I'm down for it.
You're about to travel. I might just, for your long plane ride.
Yeah, I am up for it. And this is going to be a really long plane ride. Japan is like.
How long is it from here?
Something like 15 hours.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So you basically get told to take all your clothes off, put them back on, and then you just sit on a plane. You hope the TV doesn't look like a Nokia 33 flip phone.
Oh, no.
15 hours, you have really weird, obscured conversation with the stewardess. It's like, there's always drinking. That doesn't always work out for the best either, Once you get to Japan, though, that's a whole nother thing. Once you get to Japan, you're like in Disneyland, and they know it.
Well, it seems like they embrace certain things too. Yeah. You must be really well accepted in Japan.
Oh my goodness. I'll never forget one of the first performances I did out there. I went out there dressed like a Saiyan, like from Dragon Ball Z. And the funny thing is like, I'm one of those guys that if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to wear it, it's going to be the real thing.
Yep.
And I paid it's like I had a friend of mine that was a designer, make this actual Saiyan suit that was like this heavy armor, leather, Kevlar, like crazy, but like it's built to my dimension. It's like the full on, I remember I walked out on the street with my bass and my friend Austin Peralta, who passed away, rest his soul, one of my best friends. We went and played piano and bass with a little microphone and a speaker. Everybody was tripped up because I was wearing the Saiyan suit, and I'm just out here, just black guy in a Saiyan suit with a bass. And from that moment, they understood what it was for me. He's one of those guys, So every time I get there, it's like this moment somebody has like they always bring like Dragon Ball toys, or they bring like, Fist of the North Star and stuff. Yeah, like novels, like, or the mangas.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a love affair, man. It really is for me.
How long are you going to be there for?
2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. I got a pretty packed schedule there too.
Is your girl going with you?
Yeah, she has to.
Great.
She has to. It's like
you're going to owe her a lot when you're done. You're going to be like, now I've got to go with you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I've never been in a long distance relationship, and my girl's from London. So it was weird because when we first started talking, it was like, are we really going to try to do this? And then we both were like, wait, we can afford to do this. So we just were like, let's do this. She's here and then I'm there, and then it's like everywhere and in between, it's like we just try to make up for it. It's like, oh, she's got a show's here somewhere. It's like, I'll go hang out with her there. She, meet her at a festival somewhere, all of that happens.
And is she working too while she's with you? Is she working on music?
Oh, yeah.
Is she?
Oh, yeah. She's always in constant work mode too. And she's been here for a little while. It's like every now and again, I forget, that woman has a voice on her. But yeah,
are you ever want to work together?
Oh yeah, that's definitely happening.
Okay,
right.
All right, good.
I'm happy that we can. It's a weird dynamic because there's like this line of competition / like insecurity / all these things that literally bubble up and can happen in these moments. And I'm just happy that she has. It's cool because she's like she has her own thing. Throughout the years of experience in different relationships and stuff like that, I've never experienced a relationship like this where there's somebody that she will go off and do her own thing. It's the coolest thing ever because every now and again I just go, where are you going? And I was like, where are you going? You know, she loves the comics. She'll come in with me every now and again and she'll be like, what's that? You know, we just have fun. And we also globetrot.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
of course.
it's like, it's fun. It's pretty fun in that respect.
Do you play every day?
Well, yeah, for the most part. The funny thing about touring a lot is like, because I tour a lot, I literally play every day.
Right.
You know,
right.
and so when I get home, like this 1 week I'm home, I need a rest.
Yeah,
You know, it's
yeah.
like I've been playing every day straight for 2 months. The reality is like, it's time spent. You can't make up for that. That's the part of playing. That's like the hours. That's the hard work, you know, the muscle, or like the building the muscle. And it doesn't leave. It does change when, you know, it's just like working out. You know, you take a day off, it's going to hurt a little bit more when you go back. But at the same time, it's like, you know, we're still human. We're human. And it's like stuff is happening inside of the fact that you're in this other world, you know. To be honest with you, yeah, it is about playing every day. You touch the instrument every day.
Right. And do you look for opportunities to experiment? Some people go out and they just play the same thing every time.
Yeah.
They know how people want to hear
Oh
it.
man, it's all about jazz for me, man.
Right.
It's all about, let me see how I can just change this real quick. That comes with having been on stage for a while. You know, it's like there's the part where, you know, there's the songs that everybody knows. So there'll be like, you know, I'll play the tunes and melodies that people know, but there's this thing that happens inside of that, and it's just different, which is just improvisation, you know, and you have to spend a lot of time doing that. And then the songs start melding together and becoming different tunes. You know, it's just something different, and people will recognize the lyrics, but it'll be different music. It's that fun.
What happened when Michael McDonald came out when you were at
Oh,
Coachella?
man.
It must have been crazy, man.
Oh yeah, that freaked
because
the
they
kids.
didn't know what was going to happen, right?
No, it freaked the kids out. I actually I got a surprise for everybody this weekend too. It's Michael McDonald. The funny thing is, like, he's the guy that you don't even realize you love. You know, like, you know, these kids, everybody, you know, my age and younger, and you know, the older guys know, but the kids are like, what? And he comes out and then he does What a Fool Believes, like, you know, it just freaks everybody out. You know, it's like, and he just comes out chilling. You know, he comes out in his cool little shirt and, you know, he's like, hey. And he just sits down at the piano and just goes to work, and it freaks everybody. For me, it's fun because I get a chance to sing with like one of my heroes. You know?
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
I get to you know, sing What a Fool Believes like that. Because he's always like, is that cool? I'm like, it's cool, man. Like, yeah, this is cool. I definitely plan on doing a bit more work with him in the future, though. That's a must.
He's a great writer.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can't make up for it.
Yeah. I was the song at home because, like I said, I've been playing a lot of music stuff, and I was in the other room. My girlfriend like ran in. She was like, "Is that? Oh my God! Is that Michael McDonald?" I'm like, "Yeah." Is that Kenny Loggins? Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
She took out her Soundhound thing and she grabbed it, you know, so she could put it on her iPod. And
Yeah,
it's really interesting how you capture a whole time period
yeah,
with
yeah.
just hearing a voice.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael McDonald sang backup on so many things that you would go, "Oh, wait a minute, is that him in the background?"
Yes. I had that
Because
moment
his
with my
voice
girl
is
the
so-
other day. Yeah, I was playing her some Kenny Loggins stuff because she's from the UK, so she's not, you know, she's not totally hip to everything, you know. So I'm playing her Kenny, and she's sitting there, and she's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "And here comes Michael McDonald," you know, like, and she's like, "Oh, okay, I get it." And I'm like, "Yeah, these guys, they're like a bad combination, man. They're a deadly combination throughout the years." I don't know. I mean, I'm just happy that to any degree I got a chance to work with him. You know, it was more than a notion. You know, it was more than me just playing bass.
Right.
somebody having me in a studio session, or that's how stuff translates. You know, it's like somebody calls you to work or do something, and they just have this idea of what they want you to do because they've heard things you've done, and they go, okay, well, I want you to play bass on this. Then you sing backgrounds here, and then it's like, okay, sure. But with Michael, it was kind of like, what about this? What if we change this to this? And it's just like, that's why you're Michael McDonald. I'm like, there it is. Like, I'm seeing it. I'm like, oh man, he doesn't care. He doesn't care.
You do realize that as a sort of, you still got a lot of life. You realize that you're also being rebellious in that way because there are a lot of people, a lot of young musicians who are hip hop artists, rap artists, rock people who would never admit that they listen to Michael McDonald.
Yeah, that's the thing we were talking about. It's like, being honest, I can't do anything else. It's like, I have those friends that are like that, you know, and every time I say something or do something, they look at it like, so you're just gonna, that's just it. There's like a picture. Imagine this. There's this picture in the studio when we were recording To Pimp a Butterfly with Kendrick Lamar. And every now and again, somebody shows it or sees it. But, you know, everybody's in the studio being all serious. You know, they're all like, this Kendrick Lamar, you know, gang banging. You know, everybody's in the photo like, yeah. And I'm right on the end with this giant Tanuki Mario hoodie. Just picking my nose. It's like, it's that stark and different. You know, it's like, you know, and they're okay with it. Again, it's like, Kendrick's another person that's just one of the exceptions to everything, you know, as we can see. He's another guy that just gets it. But yeah, for the most part, I had friends like that. That was me growing up all the time. You know, it's like this, are you just going to have a backpack full of toys?
You're going to wear a onesie on stage. Yep, I am.
Yeah. It's weird how you have to do it sometimes too, because they'll be like, okay, everybody, we have to wear all black. It's an important event. And I'll be like, okay, so a black and white. So what animals are black and white? I can just go with a penguin
with a samurai sword.
Yeah, and then
anytime I can work the samurai sword in.
Yeah, you just throw that in there just a little bit, you know, just a little. Let them see it, you know, it's hanging out somewhere. And sure enough, it's always been what it's been. I think that's the way it's just supposed to be, where it's just supposed to be that different. It's supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be something that's a bit juxtaposed to.
I again think it helps that if you're really good at what you do, it's much easier to be yourself.
Hey.
Because people can believe what they want to believe. I'm very successful and I am who I am. So you can like it or not like it.
I've always wanted to get a chance to share those moments with my friends though, you know. And every now and again somebody has their thing, you know, they pull it out the bag, you know, they're like, hey man, you know, I got my jewels or something, and I got my, you know, I'm shining, and it'd be like, okay. I was like, that's it. That's what's up. But again, it's like the things that have been the constant in my life, they're kind of like these pillars that I just kind of hold fast to. What is it? A fat regimen of bass playing and just comic books. And just listening with intent.
Do you think that to young musicians listening to this, because there will be, I mean, for me, it's amazing how many young musicians shop in my store, how many young musicians I see at the conventions. Some of the greatest artists and writers in comics used to be musicians. They tried that out and it sort of didn't work, and so they went into a different sort of storytelling.
Yeah.
And they will be listening. Obviously, being good is very important. Like Steve Martin said, be so good they can't look away. That's all I can tell you.
Right. Oh, that guy. Jeez, with the banjo. Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Goodness
Talk about
gracious.
being yourself. Do you think there's power in that, in going, I'm going to be my authentic self while I'm doing my music?
It's healthy as hell. It's like really healthy to do that, because there's this, I feel like there's layers of bullshit to deal with, you know, on a regular basis. And it starts as soon as you realize you got to pay to play. The minute you realize you got to pay, I feel like it's healthy, and I feel like it's a good thing to just have that balance of like, well, this is me. If it's you going into a bubble, if it's you being quiet, if it's you running into oncoming traffic, you need to be out of your mind. You know, that's the truth. You know, it's like that was a saying that Erykah Badu and Shafiq Hussein and Georgia Muldrow, you know, good friends of mine, they're songwriters. Excuse me.
Yeah, but you play with them too, right?
Yeah. There was a saying we used to have was, you know, stay out your mind. And it's like, come out here. And the implication to me was like, bring yourself to the world. And I think that's the denotation to like the importance of like, this is me. This is me being like, it doesn't mean you have to, it's not totally always ego. It's not always totally like, but it's like who you want to be. who you see yourself as. You know, you got to be that. For me, it would start with like, you know, the moments, of course, you know, I didn't know I was Thundercat growing up. I didn't know that was going to be my name, you know. For me, it was like, I would always wear the Thundercat shirt. You know, I remember that. It's like, if I was wearing a suit, I would just wear all black and a Thundercat shirt. And it'd be like, you're not going to, I wouldn't wear a suit, but it was like I was wearing all black, so you couldn't really argue, you know. And it's like, hey, man, I could flip it inside out if you want me to, but I was like, I'm not taking my shirt off. I was like, this is that.
And somebody gave you that name.
Yeah. Erykah Badu would later refer to me as her bass player Thundercat. She made me stand up in the front. And it'd be like really intense. But
that's a big thing because you were so much yourself that someone else said, you are that.
Yeah.
Because you kept saying, I am that, I am that, I am that.
Yeah.
And those three powerful words.
Yeah.
And then someone else said, you are that.
Yeah. It can push you. It's just like an extra boost. You have to be yourself. You have to. The learning curve moves faster, I think, when you're just more of yourself. You know, the things that you tend to pick up along the way, you know, like the social engaging, you know, as compared to being like something that you're always fighting to prove with this point, it becomes like, oh yeah, well, this is just part of it. And it's a piece that becomes a part of communication as compared to like this absconded, like, you know, oh no, you know, when the lights are low and when, you know, when I'm in by myself, it's like, nah, man, that's you out here too. I learned that lesson pretty intensely too. You know, it's like, it was easy to separate me as Thundercat and as compared to Steven Bruner, go out and party and, you know, do all this stuff, you know. The minute I decided to make it an artistic statement where it was like, you know, the music, people were like, okay, I couldn't separate the two. It just had to become my one person. Yeah, it was really, I remember that. It was like trippy. I was like, oh my God, my parents can see me drinking. You walk in the house, I'm like butt naked running in circles, and like it's like literally maybe cameras when I'm doing that, you know, it's like all kind of weird stuff like
Isn't that interesting that to one segment of the world, Steven Bruner is the secret identity. To the other section of the world, Thundercat is the secret identity.
Yeah.
You sort of straddle worlds.
Yeah, it was
multiple
intense.
Earths.
Oh my gosh. And there's like, you know, I had the friends that were very similar, like Lewis Cole, who's an up and coming, or he's still, you know, one of the most amazing guys in LA musically. You know, every night they'd show up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and my eyes would be all wide, and I'd be like, you know, all these lights would be going off, and it'd be like, you know, I may be stark drunk, you know, the windows all the way open, Tron's just like vomit, and like, it's like, you know, literally like there's toys set up around my computer, and I'm just
Tron
like,
is the cat, by the way.
Yeah, Tron, that's my girlfriend. Anyway.
Who secretly harnesses the power of the Phoenix Force. Just want to put that out
She's
there.
great, you know. But yeah, there's those moments that would happen, and then it would turn into like, you know, it was a regular thing for me. I was like, okay, now this is part of it. I had to figure out a way to like balance it out in it, you know, like so where I didn't go over the line, but at the same time, it just, now it's a whole picture. The one thing I'm very excited about what can be next, you know, what to come, you know. Everybody's like, ooh, you're going to collaborate with, you know, or this, and it's like, I don't know. There's a lot to it still. Different things I want to do that I'm definitely going to start pushing towards, you know. I haven't even started recording again. You know, I've been touring a lot. So it's there's a lot more drawing. I've been drawing my own merch. Like all my shirts are my drawings. You know,
that's pretty cool.
In so many ways, like certain parts of it are like these weird great pauses on your life. Like when I go on tour, there's the part where I'm out in the world playing music and stuff, but there's a part where this stability that creates that ability to create, or that breeds that environment of creativity like that, it's just changed. So I'm like, is it the part where I have to realize that that's the change again, where it's like it has to meld together? And like, I'm fine with that. If that's the case, that's the case. But that's the thing I was talking about, where when the worlds collide like that, you start to pick up and you start to find your comfort because you know who you are. You stop being afraid of what the changes that are coming and all that, and you start to look at it more like, no, I'll just wear my wolf hat. I'll just be that guy when I wanna. It's not something that's that contrived. It doesn't have to be that contrived.
I was looking at the development of, because I look chronologically and watching you from, hey, come into suicidal tendencies. You're a kid and you come in and you do this thing, and as you're developing, people are like, hey, come and play with me. Hey, can you come and do that? And hey, you know what? I listen to you, and you're constantly like joining these super teams, and you're going on these different like, and then at some point you start to kind of move towards the microphone.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
and people start to go to the back, and you're kind of leading the team.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
leading the X-Men now.
Yeah.
But you're singing and you're writing your own stuff, and then you start saying to other people, "Hey, come and play on my thing." Do you find that artistically you have sort of blossomed a little bit because you have moved towards the microphone, towards the front of the stage?
Yeah.
Embracing, this is my time now.
Yeah, I always look at these things as passing tones a lot. A lot of the time I try not to look at the immediate moment, because it's like the things that come with it, like the popularity or the fame and stuff like that, it's all like a weird, skewed part of it. I look at it more like I want to keep going. I want to keep creating. I want to be excited about the music. I want to be excited of who I want to work with. You know, I want to be excited about getting a new computer and being like... pushing the record button, you know, and it's like, computers become like art books. Like, it's like, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for those moments. So the fact that I'm still excited to me is what like keeps me fueled. Like, I'm excited. Like, I'm on fire, you know?
Yeah, I saw a video of you you were in the recording studio. It was a big board, and there was a guy who was pushing buttons and stuff.
Yeah.
And at one point you were like, no, don't put, just tell me what to press.
Yeah.
So I pressed that, right? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You were like learning. Now that I know that, you can go sit down now.
Yeah, we're not going to have that as a crutch or based on how tired you get of hearing this certain thing, you know? It's like, I know what I'm doing. That's how it works, man. You have to, you pick stuff up. Even in the studio with recording and stuff like that, the first thing anybody always thinks is like, oh, he's just playing bass. So it's like, and then it turns into me singing, and then it turns into this whole thing. I try to lend myself to the music totally whenever I get involved. If I'm going to get involved, I try to lend my whole entire being to it. I'm just happy that I get a chance to do that. I would be happy just playing bass too. At the same time, it's just, I love the idea of things that can be.
Nobody move. Nobody move. Somebody tell me how I'm supposed to feel.
I think it would be a really cool piece of merch to have a Thundercat comic.
Oh man,
Like a little mini comic or something.
Yeah.
Where you have like, that would be pretty cool. Like a limited edition Thundercat comic.
that's something I've been working on a bit, and it's just it's crazy because it's starting up the engine for the illustration is so intense. It's like having to draw every day.
Sure.
That's another. Whew. I only have like one friend, Carl Jones. And Carl Jones created he's an animator. He created the Boondocks and
Yeah, right, right.
and the cartoon one. And he's a guy that gets outsourced a lot of the time to do anime and all kinds of stuff. And I asked him one day, I was like, "What is it like?" He was like, "Man, it just doesn't stop. Like if you leave the guy in a room for 5 minutes, there's a stack of drawings about this big." And it's like a paper trail. It's like it just exists. It becomes part of your like it's like water almost. And I've seen him do it, and I was just like, I don't know if I could do that. I'm like, I don't know if I can between playing and real life. But then I'm just like, I have to, and I know that's what I have to do. So I'm like, I'm pushing towards it. I know I have to move faster. You move faster. It's something that becomes progressive once I think. You start to lend yourself to it, like I was saying. You start to lend yourself to the idea, and then you push towards it.
Are there spiritual practices that you use to keep yourself grounded? Is there anything that you do on a regular basis, daily or otherwise, that keeps you really in touch with your inner self and helps you with your art, but also keeps you human? Because to me, you're Steven. You're just a great, cool guy. You're a musician. You do great stuff. We talk comics. There's a groundedness to it. For you, that's who you're, Steven, to yourself too.
Yeah.
So is there something that you do that you go, I have to do this regularly in order to keep myself human.
Well, yeah. I mean, see, you know, I grew up very Christian, and I grew up in the morning. I had prayer time. I used to have a prayer book. I would pray for different parts of the country, and you know, you have praise and worship. You have all kinds of stuff like that, and I still hold fast to those moments a bit. You know, I'm always thankful to God. You know, that I'm here. I never forget that. I'm thankful for the fact that I get a chance to be myself. So there's that moment. I you know, do a lot of praying in the spirit. That's something that you learn, I think, you know, being a Christian too, you know, and I do that throughout the day. It's interweaved in my day. When I'm by myself, if I'm with somebody, if I'm out partying, it's like, it's just there with me. You know, I'm still having this moment, you know, and that kind of keeps me grounded through a lot of this, because a lot of it will drive you crazy. It's like, it's like the best thing now too is having like one of these things, these cell phones, because now it could go. It's like people can drive you into a brick wall faster. It's like, oh, you're not responding to the phone calls. Let me just text you. Let me email you. Let me find you on Twitter. And it's like, as soon as you look at the phone, it's like jumping off a cliff every time. But it's like, nonetheless, it's like, it's those moments like that. And I think it's also, you know, even if it's a bit weird for me, it's having a daughter. It's having a family that keeps me very like grounded, because I'm kind of out there. I'll float off a bit, you know, but it's like every now and again, my mom will call me and she'll check on me and she'll be like, what are you doing? And it'd be like, I'm not doing anything at this moment. You know, I'm not doing anything too weird right now. It's literally like that. She'll be like, what are you doing? Where's your hands at? And I'm just,
You're half naked with a lightsaber in your hand. Like,
I'm just like,
hi, Mom.
Yeah. Hey, she's like, I was going to stop by. I was like, oh, now's not a good time. You know, it's like there's those moments that still happen. Nonetheless, I'm happy my mom calls and checks on me. You know, I just know she cares. And my dad, he's just in space. You know, he just kind of like, you know, every now and again, I just see him. Whenever I see him, I have something Batman for him. Like I come bearing gifts of Batman, you know. It's the intensity of the family coupled with the music. And it keeps me like, it's in a very interesting way. It keeps me very like grounded.
This was really, really cool. I know you're busy and you're going back to Coachella today. I thank you so much for taking the time to come in and do this. It's like, this is all touchstone stuff for me.
Hey, man.
And I'm grateful for you and your presence inside my box, my four walls and a floor and a ceiling.
Thank you for having me, man.
The Blast Off podcast is produced by The Colonel, Jeff Fox, Scott Tipton, and me. Original music is composed and performed by Derek Anthony Gray. You can find more of his musical compositions on his website, DerekAnthonyGray.com.
For more information about anything you've heard us talk about today, check us out online at blastoffcomics.com. We have an active Facebook presence, so check us out over there on Facebook. And you can reach us on Twitter at blastoffcomics or on Instagram.
Or you can come by our retail location in North Hollywood in the heart of the Arts District, 5118 Lancashire Boulevard in North Hollywood, just 2 blocks south of Magnolia. See you soon.